today?
Just great. Happy to be here. And, now that school's kind of out, it's time to start thinking about, the fall and everything and what's going to be going on next year.
Well, and I know in our world with college planning, this is a busy time of year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially for you with the SAT and ACT tests coming up. I know that you've got a lot of people scrambling to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, finally school's out and you can focus on, okay, what are we going to do for the summer? And, maybe this summer's still a little different, like it was, not as different as it was last summer, but it's like, okay, maybe you can go work some, but maybe you can start working on your college applications. Maybe you can, if you're not, really, if you're not a rising senior, if just a rising junior, maybe you can start thinking about, what you're interested in, what you're going to do in college, things like that. So it's time to really, take that free time and do something with it. Right.
Well, and I think for the rising seniors, it's kind of that time too, that everybody gets a little bit like, woo, I got to get some stuff done and really start making decisions,
Yeah, absolutely. Junior year is such a busy year. And so then you're like, okay, I've got this time to breathe, but you feel like there are a million things you should be doing, but you're not sure what they are, maybe. Right.
Right. Well, and let's talk about that a little bit. So the topic that we are talking about today is why 30% of college students quit after their freshman year. And I do think this summer between junior and senior year is a pivotal time to really start planning for college so that your child's not at risk to be one of these 30%ers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that 30% thing is still like, it blew me away when I first heard it. I mean, it's something you kind of know in the back of your mind, but seeing it as a statistics that 30% of students are gone after freshman year, you don't want to be part of that. I mean, my gosh, the financial effect of that is just crazy.
Right. So yeah, we talked last time about the $25,000 experiment, and or the $40,000 or the $50,000 or the $75,000, depending on the school you go to. But yeah, 30% is a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other statistic that goes along with that is about 75% of students go to college. Only 39% graduate. So it supports this number, but what we're seeing is that the kids, the bulk of them will weed themselves out after freshman year.
Right. Once you've gotten past that, it's a much greater percentage that go on to graduate.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about why that happens. You talk with a lot of kids at this age. I talk to a lot of kids at this age. And, and I know, of course, a lot of the data and the stats behind this. But, the first thing that I really want to speak to is the money aspect.
Sure.
I know these kids understand that college is expensive. They speak to that. They get it. And I think some of them, and all these reasons kind of mesh together. But I think that they, if they go to college and are not real clear on why they're going.
Right.
They sit there and they're like, wow, I'm spending all this money. I'm spending all this time, all this energy, my family's resources, and I don't know that I'm taking advantage of it. Or possibly, they just see the student loans piling up too. And they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. So.
Yeah. And I think, high school students and first year college students may not have a full concept of exactly what these dollar amounts mean or whatever. And you may think as parents that you kind of say, oh, don't worry about that. That's our thing to worry about. But they know, and they're listening, and they get the small comments that you make about money. Like, they can't help but not know that it's important and that it is stressful and that everybody wants it to be worth something. Right. And so, and I think, I wish I had known this back when I went to high school, because I went in and I changed major multiple times, and, I was not sure at all what I wanted to do. And so it really can weigh on a student more than they may not act like it, but it's in their head.
I think you get on that, Bobby, that it's a nuance, right? They are listening, they are hearing what's happening. And there's a lot of stress going on during this time. The stress of I'm going off to college and I don't know what to expect, the am I going to get ins, the, testing, everything. There's so much, stress around this that's just one more thing. And even though, this stress is a little bit more probably when they're in the heat of the moment in that freshman year that it's showing up, but it's still just the extension of the stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the second thing that I see when I'm talking to students and we address during my classes is, why are you going? I can tell you in my household and in a lot of the households around me, the minute that child came out of my body, it was like, and look at him, and he's going to college,
Right.
and that's just the way we operate, I guess is the right word. When we've gone to college, we're second, third generation, families. So the expectation's there, right?
Yeah, you just assume, like always, okay, you're going to college, but and that's what we've talked about a lot, like that you're going to college is too general of a statement, and there are a lot of options inside there, right? Music schools and trade schools and junior colleges, which are now called like community colleges, right? But all of those are options. But even then, it's still you're going to college. But I do think that, like, for a lot of people, it's just you're going to college, and then also kind of in the background, another of those nuances is you're going to, like, I mean, I have students who are just like, well, my father and grandfather and great grandfather all went to Texas A&M, so I guess I'm going to Texas A&M. Well, first thing, it's a whole lot harder to get into Texas A&M than it used to be, and I've had some students get surprised by that. But also, it's just like, well, wait, but what is the college that's right for you? And it matters why you're going there, right? What is it that you're going to do? And if you don't know, right? And so we need to, the question and the expectation needs to be more than you're going to college. It's you're going to go learn how to do a career that suits you and will make you happy. And now let's figure out where you should go for that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because what we're seeing is, especially for these students that end up deciding that this isn't the right path for them, is it's a checkbox. It's okay, well, I've got to do my applications. I've got to do the SAT, ACT. I'm going to college. It's just the checkbox that they go through, and nobody's a really broad term, but a lot of people, a lot of families, we're not sitting down and saying, let's talk about what the end result is. Why do we need to go to college? And, instead of just you're going.
Yeah. And I think that's a conversation that a lot of parents say aren't super equipped for, because when we went to college, like I said, I didn't have any idea what my major was. And so I didn't know how to figure that out. Right. Back then. And I didn't have anybody pushing me to figure it out. And
so it was cheaper. I mean, let's face it, it was a lot more affordable. I waited tables and got through college. And by the way, I got to go with my friends and buy clothes and do all kinds of stuff. It wasn't a big burden for me. Right. These days, you can't wait tables and get yourself through college.
Not at all. Yeah.
You can help, but you're not going to, you're not going to get it done. So I think that's another big piece of this, right? Is really helping your student understand why they should be going, which leads us to the next conversation, and that is, it's really a lot deeper than that. You alluded to this earlier. It's about, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to have the outcome be? So that's getting into those conversations around career, and ultimately, what is it that you want to major in, so that you at least have some focus. Yeah, because I think we hand them the keys to the castle and we say, go.
Right.
Figure it out while you're there. And they're going, that's a lot of pressure. And it is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's helping really have those conversations with your kiddo to say, okay, let's talk about what you see as an end result. Because I think too, without having an end goal in mind, you don't know why you're putting all this effort in.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I think what we're talking about today is like just really getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, which is students are like worried about how much it costs, even if we told them not to be. And they're unsure possibly of why exactly they're going. They just know it's an expectation. They don't know why, right? And they may have even think that they're going just to have fun and make friends, right? And then the real goal is, of course, have some idea of what you want to do in the future and what sort of career this would help you toward and all that. And I think I want to refer people back to, if you look back at our previous episodes earlier this spring, we talked about like the 5 things that help you be engaged while you're there, right? And so you can go back and look at that video about, going in and talking to your professors, all that. Those are important points. But I think that comes after, right? You're still not going to be engaged if you don't have some idea of what career you're looking for, what major would be good for doing that, what your strengths are for, like that would make you more happy and successful in a particular career versus another, right?
Right. And so typically at this part of the conversation, Bobby, I always have, and it's usually the dad that's raising his hand. He's like, how does a 17-year-old know what he's going to do when they grow up?
Sure.
And I'll tell you, my answer to that is they don't. And quite honestly, none of us do. We don't know what's going to happen to us in 5 or 10 years, right? So it's a journey. It's not a definitive answer, but we all had to start somewhere. So the question, that I throw back is, do you want them to get through college and then decide when they get out? Or do you want to have the conversation early?
Right. Do you want to be having this conversation after they've graduated and they're at your house and you're trying to get them to apply for jobs, but they don't know what sort of jobs they want, right? And the thing is, you don't have to figure out your career, what it's going to be, but you need to know what you're interested in and what, I think you've told me it's like what makes a student's eyes light up, right?
Oh,
that's what you need to know.
Yes. Bobby, I had the coolest conversation yesterday with one of my clients where he was like, Kristin, there's nothing is coming to light. Nothing, right? And I will tell you, the minute we hit on sports, he's like, oh, if I could do anything in sports, I'd be happy. And you could hear the tilt in his voice go up. You could see his eyes just light up and he just got animated about it. And I was like, dude,
there are careers.
Yeah. And it
a
actually
lot of
makes
them.
the hair stand up when I talk about it, but
yeah,
in a good way,
Right. And there are careers. And see, that thing is, not every career is being a coach. There are all these careers in sports that are very business oriented careers, right? But yeah, if you're excited about that, that's it. Then you're done. Now you know a thing, right? And then you can tie in what are your strengths, that knowing what your strengths are and your interests are, then you can start zeroing in, because there are still 1,000 careers in the interest of sports, right?
Yeah. We did a Google search and it was like, okay, you could be a sports writer, a commentator, you could run sports facilities, you could sell turf to the sporting events. I mean, there's so much that now, all of a sudden you got this kid that's excited about his future because he's like, I get to work in sports. And I was like, somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you. And I'll tell you what, it's so fun to see those light bulbs go off where they're like, oh, okay, I don't have to sell insurance or, or whatever. I can do something I really love and be around that atmosphere. So yeah. I get that same conversation around video games, where they love it. And I'm like, gosh, there's so many jobs out there that you can develop and not just be a consumer of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about that so many times before. My friend who's got his degree in video games, it's funny, as time passes, now he is interviewing today to become a professor at state university where he got his degree. So he's going to be a professor of video game design while also still being a video game designer, but also an adjunct professor. And you're like, that pathway, right? Where he's like, okay, I can teach people how to do it and I can help write amazing games that are, like help code these games. Like, it's just so cool, and to see that enthusiasm that's always in his eyes and that he didn't have back when he was, tutoring for the MCAT,
right.
It's so interesting, because you find, and I think like what you were saying before, like, I think a lot of students just think, oh, I'm going to get some job where I sit in a cubicle and I do things on a computer, right? But like, it won't interest me, right? And then you're like, no, you can find things that do, right?
And then, to pull the whole strengths idea into this, the guy I was working with, he's huge in all the relationship domain or the relationship themes within the Clifton Strengths program. So for him, it was not only I love sports, it's how do I get involved and be around people consistently, like just day to day, very relationship oriented. And, there's so many opportunities there too in sales or, just, like I said, if you are in sports facility management, you've always got people around you. So, we keep that into perspective as well. And now I got to tell you, it was so exciting because we were just hitting brick walls, and then all of a sudden we got there. And
that's
and I
wonderful.
you, oh, it's so worth it.
Oh, and it is really funny to me, like, because like, of course, like with relationships, sales is the natural thing. And that's a huge thing, right? So that's like, okay, I know that door is always there. And then there are a million other things too, but it is so interesting because if you made a list of all the jobs in the world, like sales, any type of sales is the lowest for me. I just hate that idea, right? I know that's not my strength, right?
Yeah.
But relationships for me, the relationship is tutoring and that sort of thing, right? And so, but that's a different kind of relationships, right? But it is, so it's just like honing in on it. And that's what's so great. And, my students who have worked with you have come out and, both said that it really helped them figure out what they were going to do in college, gave them a much clearer idea, which helps them select a college, right?
Yeah.
And which helps them select a college where they're going to be happy, which helps them not drop out after freshman year or transfer to a new school, all of which is that, $25,000 experiment, right? That's what it's all about, is getting to somewhere where you're happy and you fit in. And that's what, and even that family has now started, telling all their friends they need to work with you. And I think even you had told me that, like, okay, one of your classes is already filled up for this summer, right? But there are still some, right? And so, I would encourage everybody, and I am encouraging all of my students to go and spend some time with you to figure this out, or even just to think about this on their own, right? And that's what this is all about, is helping people realize, okay, this is something you could do over the summer. This is something to start thinking about. As opposed to I have parents who are already trying to get their students to write all their essays. And I'm like, well, no, wait, okay. The essay prompts don't come out for sure till August. So you don't need to be writing 6 essays right now, but you could start thinking about this.
Absolutely. Which helps you write the essays. So.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise you write that same essay as everyone else. Yeah.
Well, I know you've got a hard stop because you've got some too. So Bobby, it's always fun, and we will talk to you soon.